Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Village of Riverside Board of Trustees regular meeting of Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Koss? Here. Trustee Marshawska?
Here.
Trustee Fitzgerald?
Here.
Trustee Gallegos?
Here.
Trustee Mateo?
Here.
Trustee Evans? Here. Manager Francis?
Here.
Attorney Pickerel?
Here.
Also present, Clerk Stenzel.
We have a quorum for this evening's meeting, and first on our agenda is the President's report. I would like to skip ahead on the listed agenda and introduce Representative Rashid, who is here to give us a legislative update. Representative Rashid, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank members of the Board of Trustees for having me tonight. It's good to be here with you today. I'm Abdel Nasser Rashid. I'm the state representative of the 21st District, which proudly includes much of the village of Riverside. Before I jump into the legislative update, I do want to congratulate you on your sesquicentennial. I hope I said that right. I am honored to recognize a milestone in the life of this historic community, and I want to present you with a resolution from the Illinois House of Representatives. This is a moment to celebrate Riverside's past, acknowledge its vibrant present, and recommit to its future. I won't read the whole resolution to you, but I will hand it to you, and I just want to congratulate the entire village and the community on this milestone, and I look forward to our continued partnership. I'll keep it with you at the end, Jessica, or leave it here. So in terms of, the legislative session is from January through May. We just wrapped up last week on Saturday, passed the state budget. Well, last opportunity to pass any bills into law. We have some ongoing items that we're going to continue working on over the summer and fall, and head back either in veto session in October or possibly before that, depending on whether a special session is called to deal with the impact of the chaotic federal administration. But in terms of what we did accomplish this session, I want to share a few things. I was appointed earlier this year by Speaker Welch to the Property Tax Working Group. We are working on a range of things there to try to make sure that we rein in the out-of-control property taxes that we're experiencing not only here, but throughout the county and throughout the state, exploring ways that we can give people real property tax relief. I passed 8 bills that I sponsored out of the House. A number of those have gone on to the governor's desk, including one that regulates or bans PFAS, forever chemicals, from certain product categories to protect public health. But the biggest item of all, of course, is the Illinois state budget that we passed. So we passed a $55 billion budget for fiscal year 2026. It includes a few it was a tough budget year. There's a lot of uncertainty coming out of Washington, D.C., which puts us in a precarious position. It obviously puts our counties and municipalities in precarious positions as well, depending on whether what we've seen get out of the U.S. House of Representatives ends up making its way to the president's desk. I hope that ends up getting significantly changed, and we don't see the dramatic and draconian cuts that are being proposed right now. From the state perspective, there are things that are within our control. We've continued investing in our evidence-based funding formula to continue investing in our public schools and also reduce the pressure on our property taxes. We continued investing in early childhood education with $748 million in Smart Start grants. Added additional funding to MAP programs for public universities and community colleges. Made some important advancements on public safety, continuing to fund critical violence prevention programs, as well as providing support for the security needs of nonprofits and places of worship. We also took an important step forward in reforming the Tier 2 pension system, at least the start of reform there, investing $75 million to ensure the long-term sustainability of Social Security benefits for state employees. This at least meets the safe harbor requirements from the IRS and federal rules, so that we don't run afoul of the federal law when it comes to our pensions. I'm proud to share that I was able to secure over $1 million in capital funding for the 21st District, including $250,000 in capital grant for the Village of Riverside for parks to continue enhancing access to recreational activities. Was happy to fight for that, and I was glad to see that made it into the budget that we voted on Saturday. We're back in district, so I was out of town a lot over the last 5 months. Looking forward to continuing to work with you and meet and hear from you over the summer and fall as we prepare for both what's coming the rest of the year and, of course, for next year's legislative session. A huge honor to represent this village, and I look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Rashid. And I understand that you have someone else who's on their way here, that you would, a special guest, and we'll call you back up when
Sounds
he
good.
arrives.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
And I also wanted to note that Representative Rashid buried the lead in his story. $250,000 for Village of Riverside for parks, so. So it's very timely in that we're adopting our Parks and Recreation Master Plan tonight, and we know we're going to have $250,000 to use toward that plan. So thank you very much for your efforts there. I will go back to my president's report, and in particular, I have the pleasure once a year to renominate and reappoint our volunteers to various committees and commissions. We do have some vacancies that we have advertised for, and I encourage the residents to go to our website, fill out a volunteer application. We have several vacancies, and I hope to appoint or make those nominations for appointment in July. We've already gotten a few, but we sure would welcome more. But tonight we are reappointing members of our commissions and chairpersons of our commissions, and I will read those off and then ask for a motion and a second to confirm the reappointment of the following Village Board and Commission members. Daniel Durkin, Board of Fire and Police Commissioners; Tom Orgler, Economic Development Commission; Jeff Levine, Ethics Commission; Heather Kuzma, Historical Commission; David Rubin, Landscape Advisory Commission; John McGlennon, Parks and Recreation Commission, and also chairperson of that commission; Jennifer Hennigan, Planning and Zoning Commission, and also chairperson of that commission; and Karina Conchas of Riverside TV Commission, and also the chair of the Riverside TV Commission; and Andrew Sikowicz, Riverside Police Pension Board. And I forgot Samantha Schroeder from our Historical Commission. Thank you. Those are all reappointments for full, are they all 4-year terms? I think they're all multi-year terms. I think they may vary a little bit from one commission to another. Then the chairs are for a 1-year term. Could I have a motion and a second to approve those nominations?
Move to accept. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Koss.
Aye.
Trustee Marsh-Oska.
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion's approved, and thank you to our volunteers who have agreed to re-up in their volunteer work with the Village of Riverside. And again, I encourage residents to go to our website and consider filling out a volunteer application for the various committees and commissions where we have vacancies this year. Upcoming meetings of the village include June 10th, Landscape Advisory Commission at the Village Hall, 7 p.m. June 11th, Riverside TV Commission, Village Hall, 7 p.m. June 12th, Preservation Commission, Village Hall, 7 p.m. June 23rd, Historical Commission, Village Hall, 7 p.m. July 8th, Landscape Advisory Commission, Village Hall, 7 p.m. July 9th, Economic Development Commission, Village Hall, 7 p.m. And July 14th, the Sesquicentennial Ad Hoc Committee, Village Hall, 7 p.m. That concludes our president's report, and I would open it up for trustee reports. I understand we have a C4 update from trustee Marshazga.
Yes, we do. All right, so as members of the board and probably the public know, at our May 1st meeting, we adopted the very first Climate Action and Resilience Plan for the village, titled The Road to 2050. It incorporates 8 sectors encompassing 45 strategies and 134 different actions. 16 of those strategies were identified as top priorities for Riverside's community and for the village of Riverside to address. Staff is currently reviewing those priorities and will bring forward any proposed capital and operating expense matters for consideration during our 2026 budget discussions. Moving on, in the meantime, we also have a energy planning grant that the village received, the EECBG grant. We've been conducting an energy survey to which we have about 120 responses, giving some good data sets for us to start planning with. The next phase of that involved, more focused one-on-one sessions with residents, community organizations, businesses, and contractors, and a sort of focus group setting that had been scheduled for June 10th and 12th. But we are currently considering changing the format to encourage additional participation. As far as what the C4 team has been up to, we are currently hosting the Sesquicentennial Spring Photo Contest, which focuses on 150 green ideas that Riverside residents can do at home and encouraging people to take photos of those eco-friendly actions. That contest is still open for submissions through June 20th. In the meantime, beyond that, the village successfully hosted a Sesquicentennial Bio Blitz on May 17th, where we had people, citizen scientists out in nature, assessing the status of flora and fauna and the ecological health of the Riverside community at its 150th anniversary, which I think is going to be very important information to put in our time capsule and to hopefully learn from as well. We also hosted a climate action open house with the village on May 22nd, highlighting the new Road to 2050 priorities and plans, and providing light refreshments and other, engagement opportunities for passersby, to, kind of capture that excitement of the moment on the train platform. Lots of fun there. The next thing that is happening is that the C4 regional group also met on May 22nd. Their agenda was mostly focused, however, on highlights from different communities. So rather than reiterate those all here, I will save that information for another date.
Thank you. And I understand trustee Mateo, you have a report this evening?
Yes, speaking of our sesquicentennial, there's an event coming up on June 15th. That's a Sunday. It's also Father's Day, but it's also officially Riverside Day at Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. So residents will get free admission. Again, that's on June 15th. Part of the zoo is within the village limits, and when I reached out to Jennifer Bader, who's the Vice President for Government Affairs, asking if the zoo wanted to help us celebrate, she immediately responded, and we're very pleased that they're offering admission for everybody for that day. So again, June 15th, all day long. You need a barcode. Presently, it's on our social media page. Possibly it'll be on our website.
It should be on our website. If
Okay.
it's not, we'll get it posted.
Thank you.
Oh, that reminds me. At the farmers market next Wednesday, the Sesquicentennial Committee will be having a presence at the market, and it will give Riverside residents a chance to pick up our T-shirts that have our Sesquicentennial Village logo on them. So if people want to wear those to the Riverside Free Day at the zoo, we can all recognize each other as Riverside residents and wave and say hi. So anyway, just look for us at the farmers market next Wednesday.
Thank you. Trustee Gallegos.
So this weekend is Raw, Riverside Arts Weekend, and it comes in full force with about 40 artists and a couple of bands, one of which is the Found Hounds, one of my favorites. It should be on both Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 5 on Saturday, and Sunday will be 10 to 3, weather permitting. We also have the Riverside Regatta, which will take place on the 5th of July, just a day after our celebration of Independence Day. This one will be a very photographic opportunity for those who are enthusiasts, celebrating the sesquicentennial. And, well, as my other board members have said, this is the summer of the sesquicentennial. So I would encourage everyone to watch all the activity that's happening this summer. On Facebook, it's hashtag Riverside150. And it has just been overwhelming as far as the community coming together on wanting to get together and celebrate this, all part of the Riverside universe. So it's going to be a good one, yes.
Yes. Anyone else? Any other trustee reports? Very well. Manager's report.
Thank you. I just have 2 items to report this evening. Village offices will be closed on June 19th in observance of Juneteenth, and then also on July 4th in observance of Independence Day. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you. And Representative Rashid, I understand your guest has arrived, so if you'd like to go back to the mic.
Thank you so much. So it's my honor to be here tonight to recognize an extraordinary young man and a resident of the village of Riverside, Ethan Tekalik. And I'm sure many of you know Ethan and his family. Last week, May 28th, was Ethan's 22nd birthday. Happy birthday, Ethan. Ethan lives with giant axonal neuropathy, or GAN, a rare and progressive neurodegenerative disorder that affects only a small number of people worldwide. But more powerful than any diagnosis is the way that Ethan has lived, with courage, with joy, with a spirit that continues to inspire everyone around him. I've gotten a chance to talk to Chelsea and to learn more about your family and about this. Chelsea reached out to my office to bring attention to GAN, which I didn't know much about, and was happy to do my small part in raising awareness about this across our state. I do want to take a moment to honor Ethan, but also your parents, Chelsea and John, who our office has, as I mentioned, gotten to know. Your love, your devotion, and the care that you give every single day are nothing short of heroic. The way that you've brought attention to GAN and supported Ethan through every challenge and celebrated every moment is really a testament to the strength of your family. So on behalf of the Illinois House of Representatives, I'm so proud to present this resolution in honor of your 22nd birthday, Ethan, and in recognition of the impact that you've made on our community and on our state. So happy birthday, and thank you for being a source of light, strength, and inspiration to all of us. Thank you. I can give this to. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for squeezing us in. Exit stage left. Okay, have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And now we will transition to resident comments. Are there any residents who would like to address the board on non-agenda items? I see none, so I will move on to the consent agenda. Clerk Stenzel, could you please read the consent agenda?
Approve voucher list of bills June 5th, 2025. Approve Village Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes May 15th, 2025. Pardon me. Review and file Board and Commission minutes. Landscape Advisory Commission regular meeting minutes April 8th, 2025. Sesquicentennial Ad Hoc regular meeting minutes April 14th, 2025. Historical Commission regular meeting minutes April 21st, 2025. Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes April 23rd, 2025. Parks and Recreation Board regular meeting minutes April 28th, 2025. Review and file department monthly reports. Police Department April 2025. Fire Department April 2025. Public Works Department April 2025. A resolution authorizing the village manager to waive competitive bidding and issue a purchase order to Henderson Products for a total amount not to exceed $138,592 for the upfitting of a 2025 Peterbilt snowplow chassis. A resolution of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, authorizing the village manager to execute a contract with Burke for designer-led, designer-build services for the Olmsted Sewer Separation and Water Main Project in an amount not to exceed $7,960,935. An ordinance amending various sections of the Title IX of the Village Code of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, relative to parking. An ordinance amending Title I of the Village Code of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, relative to the Village Board of Trustees meetings. A resolution approving an agreement with Williams Architects regarding architectural services for schematic design and support services for a new public safety facility and authorizing the village manager to issue a purchase order in an amount not to exceed $210,000. Resolution extending the PUD deadline for 28 and 30 East Burlington Street. A resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a contract with and issue a purchase order to Joel Kennedy Constructing Corporation for an amount not to exceed $4,013,500 for the 2025 lead service line replacement project phase 1. And a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Riverside and the Illinois Department of Transportation for maintenance of IDOT roadways within village limits.
Thank you. Do any of these items need to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Motion is made. Second.
Motion and a second. Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Koss. Aye. Trustee Marshazga. Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo. Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Motion is approved and the consent agenda is approved. Department, Board, and Commission reports. We have an update on upcoming events from Director Ron Malchiotti of our Parks and Recreation Department.
Good evening, President Pollock, Village Trustees, Manager Francis. I will try to be brief, but we have a lot of exciting events and programs coming up. Our first farmers market was held this Wednesday at the historic water tower and will take place every Wednesday until October 8th. This is the 16th year of the market, so many thanks to Amy Jaksic and the volunteers of the market committee. Our first concert in our summer concert series is next Friday, June 13th at Big Ballpark. The Gelb Family Band will open from 6 to 7, and Anchors Away, for all those yacht rock fans, will start at 7:15 for a 2-hour set. Registration for our fishing derby is still available. The date was rescheduled, so it is now Saturday, June 14th, so available online or in our office for children ages 5 to 12. There is no fee for this program, but pre-registration is required. Prizes will be awarded for first fish and most fish in each age group, and everyone will be entered into a raffle. As Trustee Mateo mentioned, June 15th is Riverside Day at Brookfield Zoo, so just print out that flyer, bring that and your Riverside ID to enjoy a free entry at the zoo. Since there's no meeting prior to July 3rd, we want to highlight our popular Independence Day events. We kick off the celebration with our July 3rd concert in Guthrie Park, featuring DJ Matteo from 5:30 to 7, and then our headliner, Wedding Band, from 7 to 10 p.m. We will have food and beverages provided by local vendors as well. July 4th begins with our Independence 5K at 7:30 a.m. Discounted pre-registration is available now, but we also have registration on race day. Immediately following the race will be our Independence Day Parade beginning at 8:45 at Big Ballpark. We will once again be offering a designated quiet zone at the start of the parade for those who prefer the parade without sirens or have any sensory issues. Our parade ends at Guthrie Park, where we will have our Independence Day Festival in the park taking place from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. with our toddler trot and local community organizations selling everything from lemonade, bratwurst, hot dogs, and more. And be sure to check out our summer brochure for all of our upcoming programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And I would point out that the Zoo Day happens to be Father's Day, too, so great day for a family outing. Thank you, Ron. Any other department, board, or commission reports? We have nothing on the agenda for that. And under pending business, we have a final presentation of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan by Barry Dunn. Director Malchiotti.
Good evening again. In December of 2023, we embarked on this journey with the team of Barry Dunn to create a master plan for the Parks and Recreation Department that would provide a roadmap for the future of recreation in Riverside. Through research and extensive online and in-person engagement with the community, this plan is the culmination of those efforts. It will not only provide essential information for future decisions, but in fact is already shaping the department. I would like to thank Village President Pollock, Village Trustees, and Village Manager Francis for their support and leadership during this process. I would also like to thank the Parks and Recreation Board for their insight and direction, especially Board Chair John McGlennon and Board Member Colleen Incandela, who attended many meetings via Zoom and in person to help craft this plan and represent the board. I would also like to thank Village staff and Parks and Recreation staff for their efforts and commitment from the RFP process all the way through to the master plan, in particular our program coordinator, Megan Siska. And of course, the Barry Dunn team, including project manager Elsa Fisher, Nikki Ginger, Steve Conters, Frank Parisi, and Jeff Andreessen. We are excited about the opportunities that are before us, and we're ready to keep that momentum going. With that, I would like to turn it over to Elsa Fisher from Barry Dunn.
Thanks, everybody, for having us again. It's good to see you, and the timing of you getting this money from the state is really, really exciting. So President Pollock, trustees, village manager Francis, very excited to be with you tonight. The 165-page report that you have an electronic copy of is a culmination of, as Ron said, for us it's been about 15 months of work. And although there's new trustees, for those of you that have been around, none of this information is new, right? We present it along the way, every step of the way. So I'll briefly go through the highlights of the report, and then I can certainly answer questions and talk about next steps. Oh, I have it myself. Which one is it, the bottom one?
The down button?
The down button. There we go. All right, so we'll talk about the layout of the plan, the actual action plan that is in the plan, next steps, and then I can answer any questions that you have. So the report is basically divided into some segments, and the design work on the left separates all the sections. The first section is an introduction, which has a history of your community, and Ron provided us a really nice list of department accomplishments that we thought were appropriate to include to kind of show where you've come from as we talk about the future. And then the introduction also includes the 5 project phases that we went through as part of this planning effort. We started with just some basic planning, then we did the engagement, then Hitchcock looked at all the parks, Williams looked at all the facilities, Barry Dunn did an analysis of recreation programming, and then we worked on the final report with your team. So the first part of the report is the demographic profile, and I won't go through all of these things, but in a nutshell, your community is aging, not unlike most communities in Illinois. Your population is predicted to go down just a little bit, but overall your median income is above the state and above the US, and your poverty level is lower than both. So you're in a very good place as you look to the future. So there's an executive summary, so someone could basically pull this section out and read it. It's a high-level narrative of each of the sections of the report, and without reading the 165 pages, you could read this executive summary and really understand what we did and where your recommendations will take you in the future. So it goes through the high levels of the demographic report, the statistically valid survey that was completed by Acuity, reviews all of the public engagement that we did, which was quite extensive, and then the assessments of the open space, the assessments of facilities. We did some benchmarking with Ron and his team to see where the village compared, how the village compared to other similar type systems. We looked at your staffing and made some comparisons there. Then we dug deep into your recreation programming, so what you offer and who's participating. We looked at your finances, and then there's the list of recommendations. And then the other document that will also be a part of this is the Natural Resource Management Plan, which you've already approved. It's being designed to match this plan and will be an appendix in the final document. So then the engagement, we reviewed the project brand, the internal engagement. We met with trustees individually, we met with the Park and Rec Board, and we certainly met with staff. For external engagement, we met with community leaders, we met with the public, we had some focus groups, and then we did all of our pop-up events where we chatted with residents to learn what they would like to see in terms of programs and facilities in the future. And then we also had that online portal where people could go and provide feedback electronically. And then at the conclusion of all of that, we came up with some themes, like what were the things that we heard consistently throughout all of the engagement. And it's so timely that you're getting money for a playground, because that was one of the things we heard the most, is that people wanted to see upgraded playgrounds. So in the analysis, this was really the meat of the project. Hitchcock looked at all of your parks, Williams looked at your facilities. We did the benchmarking, the staffing assessment, the rec assessment, and the cost of service analysis. So that was really the kind of the meat of the project. And then we came to these last recommendations. These are the high-level recommendations, and we reviewed all of these with you the last time that we presented. So in terms of the action plan is divided up into sections. So there's years 1 through 5, years 6 through 10, and then beyond 10 years. And then there's some recurring items, and it's color-coded based on whether it's parks, facilities, or programs. And what happens with this plan, Ron and his team annually, as part of the budget process, will look at the recommendations in the years 1 through 5 and assess what they can take on, what they think they can accomplish, and they will get that in their budget that you will then approve as part of the budgeting process. So this will, Ron and his team will use this, as he mentioned, as a guidepost for direction. They'll use it every year as they're creating their annual budget. So next steps. So we're looking for any input on changes to the document that you have by the 20th. So the Park and Rec Board, all of you, the staff, and then Ron will compile a list, and we'll work with our designer to make any changes that we need to make. And then we'll add that natural resource management plan in as an appendix designed to match the rest of the plan. And then once it's complete, which will be by the end of this month, we'll print out the 15 hard copies that were a requirement of your RFP. So that's all I have for you tonight, unless any of you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's been really, really great to work with your team, and I'm so excited to come back and watch your first playground be renovated with your money from the state. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item? There's none. Manager Francis.
If I could just make one quick comment. So we'll be incorporating these different pieces in our capital planning process. So it'll be presented to the board during our budgeting process. Additionally, staff is compiling proposals for park design services, and so we're getting them from a couple of different vendors so that we don't lose momentum that we've gained as creating this plan, especially now that we have state dollars. That's going to be really key, because what I am told is we will need to move very quickly once the funding is released by the state for this particular park, that we're getting the $250,000 for. And another item, the planning services for what staff is envisioning will probably be Turtle Park, because that'll be the smaller park. And so with the $250,000, that should cover the majority of those costs. And then we would do master planning for Harrington and Patriots, and those would be the two remaining. And so it will basically be two proposals. So it will be a budget amendment for the Parks and Recreation Fund. But once again, I said, I don't want to lose momentum on this. And so in speaking with our consultants and staff, we feel that that is the most prudent path forward. Additionally, one item that has been discussed throughout this process, and it's in the different documents, but I wanted to point out is, there's been a lot of discussion about parkland, both active and passive, and one of the recommendations that we received by Barry Dunn and their various support team is to actually go through a zoning process and specifically note what areas are parks and recreation and other areas that are more for trails and passive recreation. And so that'll be something that'll be forthcoming for discussion for the board as guidance is given, so that planning and zoning can then take that on. You'll notice that probably because Parks and Recreation has always been under the Village of Riverside and not a separate park district, that is probably, it's an assumption by staff and myself that is the reason why we've never had separate zoning relative to that, whereas typically in communities that have a park district, certain areas are zoned in that sense. So I just wanted to add that before the board approves the document.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions from the trustees? If not, I would ask for a motion to, what's the correct word? A motion to accept the Village of Riverside Parks and Recreation Master Plan by Barry Dunn.
I'll make that motion.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because I thought you asked for feedback by the 20th. So will we vote again then to?
I'm looking for, like, if you find mistakes, it's not going to change the content any.
Okay,
So,
all
yeah,
right.
it's confusing, but, because it's such a long document, we want to make sure everybody feels comfortable. But my
Perfect.
understanding is you're going to approve it tonight, and we're just going to clean up the loose ends, get you
Gotcha.
an electronic copy and the 15 printed.
Perfect, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Motion by trustee Evans,
I'll make the second.
second, trustee Gallegos. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Koss.
Aye.
Trustee Marsh Osga. Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo. Trustee Evans.
Thank you. The motion is approved, and we have a Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Yay. And this is a significant accomplishment for the village. Thank you, Barry Dunn, for your input, and our Parks and Recreation Department staff and Director Malchiotti. This is clearly one of our major strategic goals for this time period, and a critical part of the village. So big accomplishment. Now the work starts in implementation. Next on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing renewal of aggregation program for electrical load. Manager Francis, are you handling this, or
Clerk
Clerk
Stenzel.
Stenzel? I'm sorry.
So this is an ordinance authorizing the renewal of the village's electric aggregation program. So last meeting, the board reviewed the options available, but we do need to make a decision tonight. So the board has two options for consideration. Within those options, there are other options. So The village sent out a request for proposal, and we received bids from 2 different suppliers. That's Dynegy Energy Services and MC Squared Energy Services. MC Squared is the village's current supplier. So I'm going to be kind of a little quick on the overview of this screen, and I'm going to talk more specifically on the dollar amount impact that some of these would have on residents, depending on what the board went with tonight. So option 1 is our fixed rate. This first column here is traditional energy, no green energy at all. We do not recommend this as it's still at a premium to the ComEd rate, but we have none of the benefits of green energy. The next column is going to be 50% green energy broken down over the month's term. So we have a 12-month term, 24-month, and 36-month, whereas MC Squared offers a 12-month, 24, and a no 36-month. MC Squared rates are lower than Dynegy Energy Services. However, Dynegy Energy does offer that 36-month term if that is something the board would be interested in. Option 2 is the ComEd price match. We have 2 options within this. We have our 20% green Midwest wind generated RECs, or we have a $15,000 annual civic contribution. For the civic grant program, this would enable funds that could be directed into more local green initiatives. For example, Riverside's Road to 2050. So broken down a little bit more here, this first column is for reference. So that's using the current rate and an average based off of this consumption here, yearly cost for our residents. If we were to go with option 1, I put MC Squared here only because we can assume Dynegy is going to be higher cost than this. I also only did a 12-month rate because, once again, 24-month, a higher cost. So this is the most economical option for residents. Another note about this table is that these are estimates. That's because averages change, and there is some fluctuation with ComEd and the PEA charges. So the yearly cost in option 1, that would be going with our ComEd fixed rate. We would see an increase of $226.10 per year for the residents. 100% green energy, they would see an increase of $238.85 per year. However, ComEd will also see an increase. There's been a spike with the ComEd rates. So option 2, that's going to be the ComEd price match, where they're not going to see any costs higher than ComEd's rates. There's still going to be an increase. So they're not going to see no increase. This one is the $175.19 per year. So we received a question from a board member earlier this week about the impacts that some of these options could have on our greenhouse gas inventory. If the board were to select the civic grant option, that's where we could see a reduction in the village's greenhouse gas emissions over time through some of those local initiatives. So one example given is if 10% of homes in the village were to transition from natural gas and go fully electric, we would see that reduction, and that could be funded through a small rebate program for residential electrification that is coming from the civic grant contribution. We also have Sharon Durling, President and CEO of Illinois Aggregation Consultants, here to help with any questions. So Sharon, if you have anything to add.
I honestly can't say much better than you did, Clerk Stenzel, so that was perfect. And you've kind of boiled it down to, two options, and within those two options, 50% or 100% green if the village were to, I would call it impose maybe a premium on the rate for residents by selecting a fixed rate offer from MC Squared, or going with the ComEd price match. There's still the option of a much smaller portion of renewable energy certificates, or the civic grant. And we've talked about a few different things. They've had a few different ideas where the money could be spent for local green initiatives rather than maybe helping reduce coal burning thousands of miles from here. But you've said it well. I have a little more to say, so I'll stop, but I'm happy to respond to questions.
Thank you. Trustees, questions for staff or our consultant? No questions? I'm sorry, Trustee Evans.
Hi, do you know where we get the power from with the RECs?
Well, the power, you get exactly the same RECs or no RECs. So your power that comes through the electrical outlets here doesn't change whatsoever. But the renewable energy generation are from Midwest located facilities. And those locations might be Iowa, downstate Illinois, even South Dakota, Indiana.
Are they gas, coal, nuclear?
It's all wind generation.
all wind.
Yeah. And
So
they're
it's
the
not a
highest-
mix?
Pardon?
It's not a mix of anything, it's just wind?
Wind only. And they're considered by the EPA sort of the highest, the creme de la creme for their programs. So that's why it's been selected as wind generation.
Thanks.
So I have a question on the option 2 on this particular chart. That's the ComEd price match, correct?
Exactly.
And where's the Civic?
It's on the previous sheet that Clerk Stenzel
Okay.
there.
And
So
so-
should you do a 2-year program, that would be a total of 30,000.
The Civic match, or Civic grant, as you called it, what would be the energy prices?
It would be priced at exactly the ComEd rate, and the ComEd base rate, as she's indicated here, is 10.151, and then there's that PEA variable, it's on the previous page. That changes every month. Just for your interest, the ICC says for planning purposes, we can count on it flattening out to 0. That's for planning purposes, as we talked about today. Planning never comes out to reality. Over the last year, I looked at it, was an average 0.25% more, so you might add 0.25%. We don't know. It's variable. It's a true-up mechanism because we don't know how the weather's going to be, what consumption's going to be, recession, not recession. But that ComEd rate, regardless, we're on the grid that has this 800% spike in capacity rates that I mentioned a few weeks ago. So regardless, unless you unplug and use no electricity, we're all going to be paying more. That's a fact.
So we are, just for clarification, we have a choice. If we can decide on one of these programs tonight. If we do not, then we leave the whole aggregation
You could discontinue.
process.
Yes,
We
you could
just
suspend the program.
Discontinue the aggregation, and residents would just be buying whatever energy ComEd supplies, and subject to their prices. But if we want to choose one of these tonight, we have to do it tonight. Otherwise, we're
That's right.
not
It's the
aggregating
timing.
anymore. Yeah. So
Are we going with a year rate? The month?
that's what we need to decide. Yeah.
I have kind of the options and the breakdowns within the options up here. So if the board wanted option 1, we could talk Dynegy versus MC squared, and then what term and what percentage green energy we'd want to do.
Let me try to whittle it down a little bit here. So option 1, Dynegy versus MC squared. Dynegy's more expensive. The only thing in their favor is you have a 3-year option. Is anybody interested in a 3-year option? Because otherwise we can just
No.
cross that one off. So the choice then is we can continue with 100% or 50% through MC squared, or we can do one of the 2 ComEd price match.
I do have a question, I mean, probably for staff. Have any residents commented on the service of electricity or their bills to the village that you can recall? Dissatisfaction in anything, or?
Well, the
Happy with
commodity, the commodity is just a different line on the bill. It's reflecting MC squared versus it being ComEd. So there's really no difference because everything's transmitted through ComEd's lines.
But no one said, hey, I'm not happy with my bill, or I don't understand what's happening here.
Well, there's a lot of questions every time we do a new aggregation process. We get a lot of calls. Sharon and her team are wonderful about addressing those different questions that come in. Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion about opting out. What does this all mean? Especially when we were doing the ComEd price match, where some people were staying with ComEd, other ones were moving to the aggregation provider. It all depended on their consumption, the time they consume their power and things of that sort. So, I mean, some people do complain and don't necessarily appreciate the aggregation program, and I think it's more of a frustration of, because it happens with so much frequency too, because it's like we're finishing up one process and we're almost, resuming a new process, because for the last few years, we've been doing it every 12 months, if I recall correctly.
Yes, that's pretty frequent.
So that's basically some of the feedback that we've received. We've had a couple of them that were automatically opted into the aggregation program, and they hadn't realized they were on a different program under ComEd. But Sharon and her team were great at trying to walk them through and get them back under the ComEd program that they had. It was very specific for an electric vehicle charging station that we had several months ago, that they had realized that, at some point they had been switched.
I just have a question. If we can try to demystify this just for the general public on it, is, can we clarify the baseline of all energy comes from ComEd?
What's the
The
question?
baseline for the price of energy, what's that benchmarked off of?
That baseline currently, starting October, your program is 10.151. That's the baseline.
And with option 2, it always stays lockstep. If that goes up to 10.2, that's what the
Yes.
residents are going to pay.
If it goes down, it goes down. If the ComEd rate goes up, it goes up. It's in lockstep with that.
Okay.
So there's zero guaranteed added cost to the ComEd rate.
So the premium that's paid extra is for the green energy.
Well, actually, there's no extra premium paid. The supplier pays that out of their presumed profits. They hope to make a profit supplying the village. So there's zero premium paid, not a penny more.
Okay.
So if you suspended the program, everyone would move back to the ComEd rate or a supplier of their choice, which is always the case. Or if you continued with the ComEd price match program, they'd still pay the exact same price as ComEd. It mirrors it exactly.
So then that leads to the second question, is that if we do not continue with the deaggregation, with the aggregation, what is that base price for the?
It would be that 10.151 if you discontinued. It'd be identical. Thanks for asking that clarification. So again, can continue with your green program. It's a bit of a premium. We calculated roughly, because we can't see the future, $3 to $5 more per household per month. That could vary a lot, but with the data we have now, that's what we know. Or the option 2, the ComEd price match program, which the village did from 2020 to 2023. You had that program during the COVID pandemic, as I recall. So,
I'll just tell you where I am right now on this, and that's, I know that the rec credit program has been questioned by some as, whether it truly incentivizes the production of new green energy, and the rec program in and of itself does not, because the green energy is a commodity that we're getting from someplace else. And, that demand, which is actually being exercised by other communities as well who are signing on to these rec credit programs, is in demand. And it shows that there is a demand for green energy. Nobody wants polluting energy. Nobody in their right mind wants that. But with a limited supply of, electricity out there, a limited number of suppliers, you have a choice as a municipality as to whether you're going to, just throw caution to the wind and perhaps be incentivizing the continued production of non-clean energy, or, making a statement that you care about the green energy, which is, I think, much of what the rec credit program does, and it represents a commitment. I wish there were more community solar facilities being built, more wind facilities being built, where we could get know that our energy is coming from a closer source. We're not seeing that immediately.
Illinois is one of the largest producers of, sorry to interrupt.
No, but I just,
Next to Texas, I think, the largest wind producer, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, when we
Yay.
started this C4 process a few years ago, there were a great many hopes that we would be, having and seeing these facilities nearby, and that we could maybe someday do an aggregation program that was based on nearby community solar, so that we would know where everything was being produced. But it just hasn't happened fast enough yet, hasn't caught up fast enough yet. And that's one of the reasons why we have been doing these, in my mind anyway, leaning towards these 12-month rather than 24 or 36-month aggregation contracts, because we wanted to see what was going to happen with the development of that energy. So, I mean, it's a little disappointing now to see, and perhaps it's because the demand is so high for green energy that those prices on the rec credit programs have seemingly, been a little higher, that you're not getting as many companies coming forward with 100% green rec credit offerings as we have in some of the years past. But I would still, in light of all this, I am concerned about taking what I consider to be a pittance payment of $15,000 to be applied towards an environmental, program, even if it's something that we would want to do as a village. I mean, the example that was given with the, if we could put that $15,000 towards a grant program here that would incentivize 10% of our households to transition from gas to all electric. I mean, that's a really heavy lift. And I am not sure that establishing a new program that, with all of the administration and the learning curve that's involved with it, I don't think we could get 10% of the homes in our village to transition from gas to all electric in 1 year, to be able to provide the carbon offset that we would need to do if we said goodbye to 100% green energy. I don't think we could do it.
Well, there are other things we could do with that money.
But it wouldn't offset the step backwards we'd be taking in terms of our carbon emissions baseline that we're working to improve, not make worse. So
Well, that's what we're discussing.
I know, but I'm just telling you what my opinion is based on all of the information that I have received and,
So which option are you saying?
I would stay with 12 months with the 100% green energy with the MC squared.
With MC, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm leaning to, a year MC.
I think it's pretty obvious that of the MC to 50% versus 100%, the 50% is not worth doing. The additional cost of 100% is nominal. So, yeah, I would agree that if we're going to do green energy, that or this option one, that 100% is a more efficient way to go. Any other comments, other opinions?
Yeah, just to clarify, for option 2, there was 2 options within that. They were kind of nested together, correct?
Correct, you're right. Trustee
So from my
Fitzgerald.
understanding is that option 2 is you take 20% green energy
With
And you-
zero rate risk is
Zero
what
rate
you
risk.
get back.
So the only thing, and if you take 0%, then the village gets $15,000, correct?
Yes, exactly. I'll just interject a little bit to kind of hang on what Trustee Oska had said. A year ago, I stood here, didn't have a crystal ball. I still don't have a crystal ball, but I think I announced last week, today and through October, you're paying 809 cents per kilowatt hour if you're in the village's program. The ComEd rate is now 10 cents. So folks are saving, I figured out, probably $23 per household for this month. Now, again, that was a crystal. We couldn't see in the future what was going to happen, this upset in the market. So in the end, you'll actually have 100% green, and the average household will have saved about $1.50 over time. No premium, in other words. And I'm just saying that as a grade on you, good fortune, good decision. Let's call it good decisions. But so we don't know the future, but it looks like less of a widespread than a year ago. And I don't have I'm not saying I have a vote at all in this, but I'm just kind of, with what you said here, the margins look better than they did a year ago. That said, we could see surprises the other way. But I'd just like to say you've done really well. This year it's been a home run plus from just the fortunes, the vagaries of the market. I don't want to cloud the decision, but it's a little bit less of a wide margin, it looks like this time.
Assistant Manager Monroe did give some clarification to the 10%. It wouldn't be 10% expected in a year. It's the Road to 2050 plan says from now until 2040. So this would be kind of beginning that we're starting this transition of slowly building our way there using that civic grant. So by like 2030, the goal would be 5%, and we could offset that by 8,455 metric tons.
So
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
wanted us to consider the grant program. It's a new program available to us. I think we have considered it. Personally, I don't think it's the way for us to go. It's not going to advance us enough. For me, the comparison, since 809 is no longer going to be an option starting in October, the comparison is between MC 100 and the option 2. So we're talking, quick math, $60 a year difference for premium, if that's the way we're thinking about it. And I think my preference would be to stick with 100% for 1 year.
I'm seeing some agreement on that. I would like to add that if that is indeed the way we go, and this came up at the last meeting, I really would like our staff to think about a more robust way of informing residents how they can opt out if they want to. I hope no one opts out if that's the way we go, but I also want to be fair to people who may choose to opt out. And I know in our official legal notice, we can't talk about rates,
But we can
but
make
we
it
can do
very
that
clear.
separately, right?
And help, yes, in newsletter on your website, would be real happy to make it, super clear of how they can opt out and why they may or may not want to. Just give the
Yeah.
choice.
Right, thank you.
To clarify, if you stayed in the program this year, you actually ended up saving money because of the way that the ComEd rates went up. You saved money over going to the ComEd rate.
Seems that way.
So there's a chance, we can't, again, she said several times she doesn't have a crystal ball, but there is a chance that even by saying, okay, you're gonna pay $60 more a year, there's a chance that you could end up paying less money than people that opt out. So there's that
Certainly
possibility
is.
that's out there.
And just to add to that, as I said, that variable last year averaged about a quarter of a cent every month. So that would take that $5, you said 60 a year, $5 a month overage down to $3. We can whittle this away and,
Yeah.
even with the clouded crystal ball that we have, is to not being, I don't think anything would be a bad decision. It's just a matter of which choice you like the best.
Any other comments or questions? I don't recall if I went to the public. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this matter? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the 12-month, 100% green energy option 1.
Second.
I'm assuming you mean from MC squared?
MC squared?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the only one left.
The rate of 10.9
Yes.
fixed rate.
The MC squared,
is, yeah.
100%. Motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Second. Trustee Mateo. Any further discussion on the motion? Clerk Stenzel.
Trustee Cost?
Aye.
Trustee Marshaska? Aye. Trustee Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Trustee Galagos?
Aye.
Trustee Mateo?
Aye.
Trustee Evans?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion is, an ordinance is approved. Thank you again for your help with this
Thank you for
program.
letting me help you guide your conversation. Thank you.
New business, motion to accept the Village of Riverside's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2024. Director Zavala.
Good evening, President Pollack, Board of Trustees, Manager Frances. The village is required to complete an annual comprehensive financial report within 6 months of the end of the fiscal year and is included in your packet tonight. Some highlights from 2024 were the creation of the Parks and Recreation Special Revenue Fund. You can see their activity and balances in a few different sections of the report. The village's general fund surplus before the plan transfers to the Capital Projects Fund was $979,559 and larger than the previous year's surplus before transfers of $307,000. Preparing for an audit requires a significant investment of time, attention to detail, and collaboration across multiple departments. I would like to thank the finance team and sincerely thank Lauterbach and Amen for the professionalism and collaborative approach throughout the engagement. Their thorough review and constructive feedback are invaluable in helping the village maintain strong financial policies. Tonight, I would like to introduce Courtney Moore from Lauterbach and Amen, who is Principal of Audit Services and is here to present the opinion and give us a little bit more detail about the audit.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As Yvette mentioned, my name is Courtney Moore. I am one of the audit principals at Lauterbach and Amen, and I'm here to present the December 31st, 2024 audited financial statements. Before I get started, I did want to echo Yvette's thanks and extend my sincerest gratitude to you and your team for all your hard work in getting everything pulled together. It takes not only time to get ready for us to come on site and test your balances of your financial statements with supporting documents, but to also help bring it to the audit document that you see in front of you today. So thank you so much for all of your help. The Village of Riverside is a part of the Government Finance Officer's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is a very prestigious award that is only valid for 1 year and requires the submission of an easily readable and efficiently organized audit report. Additionally, within this program, there are some additional pieces of the audit report that aren't necessarily required for the state and are required for this program specifically, which is what makes it as prestigious as it is. The submission of your December 31st, 2023 audit report granted you your 33rd certificate in this program, so congratulations on receiving it once again. We are working with the team to submit your 2024 audit report in order to receive that 34th certificate. As Yvette mentioned, the state requires a fully comprehensive audit report to be submitted within 6 months of your fiscal year end. The purpose of an audit is for us to perform various tests and procedures on your financial statements to ultimately form an opinion. We did give the village an unmodified opinion. It is also known as a clean opinion. It is the highest opinion that we can give. It states that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects, and we can rely on the internal control environment of the village. Additionally, one of our required letters to all of you is our SAS 114 letter, and it is us describing that we did not have any difficulties or disagreements with management throughout the process. So I did want to touch on just a few key financial highlights for the year. Overall, in your general fund, which is your main operating fund, you ended with a fund balance of about $4.9 million. Of that 4.9, there are various restrictions placed on them. So there's a non-spendable balance, an assigned balance, and a restricted balance, ultimately bringing you to a total unassigned fund balance of about $151,000. So ultimately, that total 4.9 is essentially set aside by all of you. You've set parameters on how you want that to be spent in the future. As Yvette mentioned, this was a decrease from last year to this year, but that was mostly due to that transfer that she had mentioned. So it was about a decrease of about $1.9 million, but as mentioned, that was planned, and your fund balance continues to be healthy in your main operating fund. Your Parks and Rec Fund, your Debt Service Fund, and your Capital Projects Fund, which are all the major funds of the village, actually showed an increase in fund balance this year and also continued to maintain healthy fund balances too. On the enterprise side of things, with your water and sewer fund and your parking lot fund, you had an ending net position of about $19.8 million in your water and sewer fund and $2 million in your parking lot fund. Now, similarly to what I mentioned about your general fund, some of this is set aside for specific purposes. So of the total 19.8 in your water fund, about 15 million of that is actually your capital assets. So these are the assets that are owned and operated through your water and sewer fund, less any debt that was taken out to fund them. And similarly, in your parking lot fund, about 1.9 of your total net position is your net investment in capital assets. Past the financial statements, we have the notes to the financial statements, which are really the meat of the audit report and explain everything and anything you may need to know, including details on those capital assets, debt instruments, your IMRF plan, and your other pension plans. The other bound document that comes from our audit is something called the management letter, which are our recommendations to all of you of any policies, procedures, or anything else that would have come up throughout the audit process. I'm happy to say we did not have any new recommendations, and we actually have some updates to some prior recommendations. Last year, we had a recommendation regarding your police pension fund. So it was underfunded by just a little bit. It was about 94% funded in total. But this year, you had exceeded the actuarial determined contribution. And so that comment has been considered implemented and will not be repeated in the future. Last year, we did note a couple funds with a deficit fund balance, and we did have to repeat that comment this year. Both of your Harlem Business District funds did report a negative fund balance, but based on the management response and based on our testing, this was planned. You had a couple expenses that had come up in both of those funds, so it was expected to see that negative fund balance, and the goal is to make that positive in the future years. The final piece of the management letter is upcoming standards that are required to be implemented. So GASB is the Government Accounting Standards Board. They basically dictate the way that your financial statements are supposed to be presented. And they came out with 2 new statements that will need to be implemented as of December 31st, 2025, so your current fiscal year. We just put these in the letter so that you are aware of them, we're aware of them, and we will work with the team to get them implemented as necessary. So with all that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the audit report, audit process, management letter.
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything to add, Manager Francis?
No, I do not.
Any public comment on this matter? Would someone like to make a motion to accept the Village of Riverside's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2024?
Motion is made.
Second.
Motion and a second. Clerk Stenzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Cost?
Aye.
Trustee Marshaska?
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Trustee Galagos?
Aye.
Trustee Mateo? Aye. Trustee Evans?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion is approved, and thank you, Director Zavala, and the Finance Department, and Lauterbach and Amon for your work during this audit process. As always, we have a very well-run village, and kudos to Manager Francis and her entire team for that. So thank you very much. New business, B, an ordinance amending various sections of 8-6-2 water service charges of the Village Code of the Village of Riverside, Illinois. Director Zavala.
Thank you again. I will begin with a quick overview of the Water and Sewer Fund, which is an enterprise fund. This means that the Water and Sewer Fund operates in a manner similar to a business enterprise, funded by the user fees. It's important to note that the Water Sewer Fund does not receive any property tax collected by the village. In April, the village received notice from the Village of McCook, from which we purchase water, that they were increasing their rate by 24 cents. Historically, the village passes on that rate increase along with any operational increases related to personnel and capital projects. If you could, please. So, capital infrastructure improvement and lead service line replacement mandate are now trending to be the major expense contributors of the fund. This year, there are capital water main replacements and sewer separation projects totaling $8,900,000 and $4 million budgeted for our first major lead service line replacement project. This map can be found on our website. It's an interactive map. Right here it just shows our water sewer fund capital projects that are planned, but if you go on to the website, you can click and see all projects that are planned throughout the village for 2025 and see what street is going to be affected. These projects are funded by the $6 million alternate revenue bond, which was approved earlier this year, a 0% interest loan anticipated from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, and fund reserves. This debt is paid out of the Water and Sewer Fund. It does not have an effect on property taxes. A funding schedule was approved in 2023 that uses a smoothing technique to incrementally increase the rate for lead service line replacement and minimize the impact to residents. Here we can show a little snippet of the schedule that was approved in 2023, showing what the rate is for lead service line replacement. We have 120 in 2023, 140. These are small increments that we are using throughout the years to minimize the impact. We don't want to see a large jump in the bill. We want to smooth that over through the lifetime of the project. For some surrounding communities, the IUPA loans can be forgiven, but Riverside has not been able to meet the median household income threshold requirement at this time. Director Tab is in attendance if there are any questions about the projects that are planned for this year. Due to these expenses, staff recommends increasing the water rate from $20.77 per gallon for 1,000 gallons to 21.31 cents per 1,000 gallons, and the sewer rate from $5.45 per 1,000 gallons to $5.50 per 1,000 gallons. This is an overall increase of 2.25%, as you can see on the second charts to the right. We have the minimum bill of $4,000 gallons. We have water and sewer. Total bi-monthly bill is $104.88 at the moment. It will increase to $107.24, 2.25% increase. The monthly impact is $52.44 at the moment. Will increase to $53.62, with the overall annual increase of $14.16. The average bill is beneath, which shows the impact for the bi-monthly bill, the monthly bill as well, with the annual increase of estimated $29.13. Overall, it's a 2.25% increase. Lastly, the village is at a 98% completion rate for the new water meter replacement program. Staff has reached out numerous times to everyone who has not upgraded to the new Camp Struck meters. These residents are charged $50 manual read fee on their bill at the moment. The village incurs more costs than just the staff time to send Public Works to go and read their meters. We have the additional cost of keeping the software has doubled, along with the additional billing time that it takes to run a separate cycle just for maintaining two different systems at the moment. And these costs, so staff is recommending the fee to be increased to $100 due to the increase of costs of maintaining two systems. But as that pool gets smaller of residents that do not have the new meters, they have to cover the cost. So staff is recommending increasing that fee from $50 to $100. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And like I said, Director Tab is also available to answer anything.
Thank you, Director Zavala. Questions for staff? Any comments or discussion from the trustees? Any public comments on this? There are none?
The only thing I want to say about the people who haven't switched, is it possible to draft an ordinance so that if the house were to sell, there's a stipulation that the new owners would have to switch?
We have been requiring that as part of
Okay.
our compliance process.
Thought so, just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
There are additional benefits to having the new meters with the new software. We're able
Yeah.
to notify them right away if there's an issue in the home. The benefit really
Oh,
outweighs.
all the benefits definitely outweigh anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and we plan on introducing new software at the end of this month that will enable residents to be able to monitor the usage on their own. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Very good. If there are no,
I just have one more
yes,
question.
please.
Is that for the people who have not transitioned, and is that fee an annual fee, a
No,
one-time
it's,
fee?
it's on their bill. It's a bi-monthly bill, so they
Okay,
get
so every other
6 times a year.
month they get
Yeah,
an
they get-
additional
it's on their
50
bill.
or
Because
soon to
somebody
be
has to
100?
go and actually,
Okay.
with the radio and read the
Yeah.
meter.
Each
Staff
time?
has to process, yeah.
You know, I got my meter switched over. It was the nicest process. It went very smoothly, and it's nothing to be afraid of. And really, I think we gain a lot of security in knowing when we have an abnormal amount of water usage coming from our property, meaning we have a leak somewhere. The village can reach out and tell us. I think that's peace of mind that everyone would want. So.
That's really good.
Well,
to
and
know.
it's also, I mean, when we're talking about climate change and things, we're talking about
Yes.
water usage.
Yes.
It also makes sense from that standpoint that if there's an abnormal amount being used, we want to know that too.
Very good. If there's no other questions or comments, could I get a motion to approve an ordinance amending various sections of 862 of the Village Code of the Village of Riverside? Motion
Second.
and a second. Clerk Stanzel, please call the roll.
Trustee Koss.
Aye.
Trustee Marshaska.
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Trustee Galagos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo. Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you. Next on the agenda is School-Age Childcare Program Intergovernmental Agreement between Riverside School District 96 and the Village of Riverside. Director Malchiotti.
Good evening again. I just wanted to provide some background on this item because I feel it's significant not only to the department, but the community. At the February 19th meeting, the School District 96 Board approved an RFP process for the before and after school program provider, of which we were invited to participate. The department was not only grateful to be part of the process, but to have the opportunity to showcase what our program has to offer. As longstanding partners with the school district, we have provided the program since 2017 and navigated every Institute Day, Emergency Day, and even a global pandemic. I'm pleased to announce that at their May 21st meeting, the Parks and Recreation Department has been chosen to continue providing the program for families of the school district. We offer an average of $10,000 in scholarships annually, and our partnership with the West Suburban Special Recreation Association ensures that we will never leave a child behind when providing this program. We conduct surveys to obtain valuable feedback from users of the program, and the school district also sent out a notification to all parents enrolled within the district to provide additional feedback. And while the vast majority of the feedback was positive, we are always looking to refine and improve the program, as we are never interested in the status quo. So whether you are currently enjoying the program or you are looking to get more out of it, we are rolling out some enhancements for the 2025-26 school year and beyond, including additional enrichment programming to our already robust curriculum with yoga, cooking, writing, engineering, and performance art, to name a few, at no additional cost. 1-day and 4-day registration options to our already flexible plans. And most importantly, we are committed to a 3-year price freeze on all registration options. And while we have received overwhelmingly positive feedback regarding the program from our survey, parent testimonials, and our enrollment has grown every single year. We have accommodated every request that the school district has asked, and we will continue to do so to achieve our shared goal of serving children at the district. I also wanted to take a moment to thank Parks and Recreation staff, Elizabeth Nelson Cifuentes, who coordinates and oversees the program, and program coordinator Megan Siska, who was very instrumental in putting together the proposal and presenting to the board with myself. Before you is a draft agreement and an updated resolution. The original copy you received had a typo, but that has been revised. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ron. Any questions for staff? Any further discussion or comments from trustees? There's no public input. I would like to say that when Manager Francis made me aware that the school district was doing an RFP for this program, I challenged Manager Francis and Director Malchiotti to take this as an opportunity to showcase what they've done in the past and to improve upon what they've done in the past. And they have done exactly that. Ron and Megan and their team put together a tremendous proposal. They listened to the community. They used this as an opportunity to make our program even better than what it was in the past. So incredible job by Director Malchiotti and our staff, so thank you very much. Since there's no discussion, can I get a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement?
I'll make a motion.
That's second.
Motion and a second. Clerk Stenzel.
Trustee Koss.
Aye.
Trustee Marchowska.
Aye.
Trustee Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Mateo.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you. Discussion and review of building permit fee waiver for 2830 East Burlington Street. Manager Francis.
Thank you. So I just want to make mention that Patrick Leone from Lion Development is here. I'm going to walk the board through his request, and then the board can ask any additional questions of myself or of him as well. So as the board is aware, there was a planned unit development submission for 28 through 30 East Burlington Street. Within the packet are the cost breakdown, what it was in 2023 versus 2026, which is probably more of the targeted time frame in which that project would be completed. Emily, if you might, thank you. And also, there is a copy of this for board members to reference because it is somewhat challenging. It is also within the packet as well. And so it provides a comparison of what the costs were initially when Lion Development embarked on this journey for the planned unit development and what they're projected to be today, essentially. And so where that difference is in their different costs. And so that's what has precipitated Mr. Leone asking the board for certain waivers for the development. Additionally, I have put together, in coordination with other staff members and Assistant Village Manager Monroe, the range of what these costs are going to potentially look like for the different permit fee waivers, and also for third-party services that we utilize. For example, plumbing, inspections, engineering, et cetera. And so you'll notice that for the grand total with all of our fees, we're estimating it to be in 2025 a range of $262,488 to $295,488. And so there is that range. And why is there that range? Because we don't have the final plans. And so it's really hard to state exactly how many different fixtures are going to be included, what the final actual rate for the base building fee is going to be, because we don't have those final plans and that final information. And so we've gone through the process, additionally projecting out what that range would look like in 2026. So you'll notice in the yellow, it has our 2025 estimate with the range of the high and the low. Right below that for 2026 with a 5% increase is that range. And then if we're looking at just what our direct costs are, which means our estimated direct costs and the high and the low of what we're paying third party. So our contractual inspection services, Lakeside, that we've put in that estimate in their engineering. And so you'll notice that those particular items are noted as third-party review fees as well, for fire and sprinkler, for just regular plan review, engineering plan review, and then there will be some instances in which some inspections cannot be done in-house and would be needed to be done through our third-party vendor, which is Lakeside as well. So on the next sheet, to answer some questions that I had received from board members that's projected up on the wall, is what has been the history of some economic incentives that the village has provided previously. And so we go into the Wayback Machine in 2016. Labara came, which coincidentally, Mr. Leone was also affiliated with that project. The project cost at that point in time was $1.5 million. The total incentive that was paid as part of that with waivers and sales tax rebates totaled $156,216. And the duration for the sales tax rebates was a 3-year period. Then in 2017, we did an economic incentive package for Sawmilly. And so their period was for 24 months, and their incentive was approximately $10,718. Then in 2021, we had Sherwin-Williams come in. They had projected the $1.8 million project with a total incentive to be paid of a cap of $220,000. One item to note is that as part of that incentive package, the village also received that parking lot that is currently at the corner of East Burlington and Harlem. Then in 2023, the village entered into an agreement with Starbuds. That process is still ongoing, but as part of that, their incentives would be paid over a 10-year period as that separate incentive agreement, but also the sale of our property located at Harlem and also East Burlington. And which brings us to the latest request from Lion Development, where when you look at it from the perspective of the total cost of the project, this one is the highest that we've received thus far. And so in reviewing the potential financial benefits of this planned unit development, our township assessor was able to provide an estimate of what that planned unit development in property taxes would be bringing in on an annual basis. And so in total, it would be $383,033. But remember, the village only represents approximately 15% of that. And so showing the total community gain for property tax, but then I pulled out just the 15% on an annual basis for the village. Now remember, these are present value. I did not put any inflationary increases when putting in what the 10-year total would be. And so on an annual basis, based on these cost estimates, the per capita taxes is based on 2024 numbers, that $9,385.20. That is based on, we have 22 units, and so based on that, times 2 individuals per unit. Some units may have more, some may have less. And so just coming up with an estimate for the board to make this evaluation. So that's where the grand total of the $66,840.15 comes into play, and then multiply that times 10 years. No inflationary increases, items that cannot be quantified. So I did actually reach out to CMAP and ask them, when you have communities doing a planned unit development, is there a formula or a multiplier of anticipated additional revenue that comes into a community? Because that would be really helpful. Apparently, they don't have that, but they wanted to engage in a further conversation with me because there are other factors that come into play that I can't quantify. So example, online sales tax. When a package is being delivered to a certain address, the village gets a portion of that sales tax. Telecom tax. Once again, if like a cell phone is registered to a Riverside home, we get a telecom tax for that and a 911 surcharge. If a resident has a cell phone, but it's registered to their employer in the city of Chicago, we do not see that. And so there are these different other pieces that I can't necessarily quantify because they're just unknowns. So in my estimation, that is a low number. Simply for the fact that I don't have access to that type of information. Will our sales tax increase? Certainly, when you have 20 plus additional units. Will our telecom and utility tax increase? Once again, certainly because you have those additional units that are then paying bills and then are taxed on those bills. But once again, I cannot come up with that figure. And so I just wanted to provide the board an overview of what this looks like. And so then we go into the questions of, once again, this is for discussion only. No decision would be made this evening, but staff needs guidance on whether or not the board wants to move forward. And so we have, does the board want to provide any type of permit/fee waivers? If yes, then we start going through whether or not it's a full waiver of fees or a full waiver of fees with a cap, because we've done that before as well. Sherwin-Williams is probably the most recent. Well, I take that back. Starbuds, we had a cap as well in addition to Sherwin-Williams. We did have one with Sawmilly. Sawmilly didn't make it to that cap. Actually, Labara, we did have a cap on the permit amount in which the village was waiving at that point in time. And so you can also do a fee waiver, a full waiver of fees, but having line development pay the costs of any type of re-inspections. And so re-inspections would happen if, you know, the contractor did something improperly, and so our inspectors have to go back out and do an additional inspection. Or you could even put a cap, you know, and so if you're putting a cap, if there are re-inspections, then they have to pay that additional cost. You could also look at doing a waiver of all the in-house fees, and so that was the item that was highlighted in the table where it said the estimated total third-party costs with the 15% contingency. You could look at doing a waiver of the in-house costs with a cap and having the developer pay the third-party fees. Or having line development pay all the fees up front, but then the fees would be rebated as they meet certain milestones in construction or after the work is completed. So you can look at structuring this in different manners. Ultimately, any type of agreement that we enter into, we would then need to record with the Department of Revenue, as we have with our other previous agreements, so that they have that on file as well. It's a lot.
It is.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Leone, did you want to add anything?
No, I think Jessica covered it fairly perfectly in detail there.
Very good.
It lays it out pretty clearly.
Thank you. Trustees, questions, comments?
Does the village have any recommendations? Yep, I'm putting you on the spot.
So, you know, considering that the costs have certainly gone up, you know, I think it would behoove the village to evaluate some type of waiver. You know, if the board were looking at a full waiver, I would say that perhaps structuring it that if they could pay a portion of it up front, and then it's rebated over time. And what that does too, so they're getting their money back, but also it manages the timeline, right? because the village isn't going to recognize any of those savings or any of that revenue until the building is built and residents are in there.
Right.
And actually, President Pollock and I were chatting this afternoon, and, you know, while the first floor has the potential for retail, that was an option that wasn't necessarily included, but whether or not the board would want to entertain that as another piece.
Yeah, but looking back at the list of things that we saw on that screen, you know, cooperation, the private sector really pays off now. I mean, we're looking at that sort of stuff, and it's tremendous progress that our village has seen. So I would encourage that we do cooperate in good faith from all parties.
Can you repeat that?
Oh, looking at I'm sorry, I was looking at the present. When you look back at the history of those things that we've done in cooperation with the private sector, you know, it wasn't an easy decision to come to at that point, but now looking back, the benefits that we've all seen from them, there's a lot of fruits to those trees that have been planted. So I would like to see that cooperation continue with this in good faith from all parties.
While we're on this table, can you excellent collection of information and data, so I really appreciate that. Can you remind us, say for Labara, was it just permit fees that were waived?
So Labara
Third party?
was-
What I'm trying to get at is, did they pay for the third-party inspections?
Sure. So they did not, but the board did have a cap. So Labara had multiple things that were waived back in 2016. And so they had approximately $107,878 in sales tax rebates that were provided to them from 2017 through 2019. And the board had approved a cap of waivers, but it included staff tracking their time, so all collectively, like a cap on all costs and fees, and it was $49,000. They came in right at $48,337.50. So, but as part of that, it wasn't just waivers of the building permit fees and the inspection fees, because that did include third party. But also it included, as part of that total, all in $49,000, it included waivers of liquor license fees, business license, and health inspections for a 3-year period.
Thank you.
To clarify, you meant health inspection fees, not health inspections, right?
Yes, thank you.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Good clarification.
Yeah, just didn't want that getting out there that they haven't been health inspected.
Trustee Fitzgerald?
I think with the inclusion of the PUDs and what it brings to the community and how it was laid out with the hard and soft benefits that come to the village, I would feel comfortable at this point with the very first option of a full waiver of all fees.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with waiving our third-party expenses. When we talked about the grocery tax, that was $50-some thousand a year, right? And, you know, staff indicated that our budget lines are very tight. And so are we comfortable swallowing up to $60,000 in fees?
What about if they paid for it and then that was rebated after the fact? Once they, you know, once the building was occupied and you had different stipulations relative to that. So they paid it up front. That, and also I had a note for myself. One item that really isn't included in here that we do ask of contractors is parkway bonds. And why? Because during construction, that's one of the things that happen is, you know, and it's not that they're not trying to be diligent, but accidents happen, sidewalk gets torn up, streets get torn up, and so those parkways are, the purpose of them serve restoration after the project is completed. So would the board entertain that perhaps the third-party costs are paid up front and then are rebated upon completion over a 2-year period to line development, or over a 3-year period, similar to what we've done in the past.
Is that option number 6 that you're suggesting?
Yeah,
Closest
it's
to it?
kind of a combination, correct?
Hybrid-like, okay.
There's a lot of ways you can set these up.
I'm more prone to that.
To pay all the fees, or how
And then
about
it's-
waiving our
And then
in-house?
rebated after a period of time.
Okay.
I'm not sure where I'm landing on all of this, but, you know, I'm attracted by the costs of reinspection fees, because for me, like, that role that the village serves to go out and do an inspection and then compare to code and say, you know, is this really up to code or not? It really, that's a valuable service. And when we have to go out repeatedly because something isn't happening, that does incur a lot of costs that aren't anticipated. So I like the idea of, if it does become necessary, you know, for basically essentially public health and safety, to go out and reinspect until it's done correctly. Because we want this project done correctly, but the community needs the project done correctly, that any of those costs should remain with the developer.
Trustee Evans.
So could we do take the last option, but also having to pay the third-party fees and the reinspection fees? We would rebate the rest with the milestones.
So you want them to pay 100% upfront, and then we would only rebate our costs, our direct costs?
Is that pretty significant? Or is it mostly the third party?
The third party is approximately, it's a range. So the third party is approximately $56,235 to $61,985. So the bulk of it, for all intensive purposes, is our fees that we're absorbing
In-house fees.
Correct.
I need to comment on this idea of charging for reinspection. I'm not comfortable with that. Because of the work I've done outside of Riverside, and it probably, you know, you get a contractor who gets in conflict with the village over an issue. And then what I would always hear as a community development director was, well, he's just failing me because he gets more money doing that. And I don't like that. I don't like putting our inspectors or the contractors in those positions. Both the inspector and the contractor have the same goal of building something that's to code. And I think that muddies the water in that relationship when you charge extra for re-inspections.
I was charged extra for re-inspections on my project.
I personally don't like that. I get it, why, and a lot of villages do that, it's not uncommon. It's just that, yeah, I've never really been comfortable with that.
How often does that happen?
So part of the estimate, in a project as large as this, we anticipated about 20 re-inspections. So that was thinking about all 22 units, plus common areas, plus exterior, and all that. That was a base level of re-inspection. Typically, you know, most inspections pass. It depends on the trade, it depends on the contractor, how familiar they might be with our particular amendments for a code, but it's rare. I would say when I've done calculations on it, it's probably 10 to 15% of the time. We go out and, you know, may have a day where we have nothing that's failed inspection, and then a couple of days where we might have 3 out of 10. because of whatever circumstance. So it's when I see a lot of failed inspections, I'm concerned, and we talk about it and figure out what the circumstances are. And if I'm seeing no failed inspections, again, you want to have a keen eye to just make sure. But in a project this large, we're estimating our best guess as to having a couple here or there, but a lot of the units will be done similarly and very likely, and so you'd have hopefully some repetition there that would be successful.
So how about a hybrid? We waive the permit fees, ask line development to pay for the third-party ones up front, and then do rebates.
Is that what you were suggesting, kind of?
It's kind of what, Manager Francis was suggesting. I think that works.
You had suggested having them pay all the permit fees up front. Would you be comfortable with waiving that part of it?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'm fine to go with a majority consensus on that.
Yeah, this has to come back, so if everybody's comfortable with at least drafting is it an ordinance that we, or
It's an
resolution, or?
Resolution and an agreement.
An agreement? We can proceed with that. Gives you, some time to think about it in case there's a nuance or detail that you want to add. But I will, unless there's objection, I will take that as our consensus to the staff. Manager Francis?
And I would just add that they would be responsible for paying for their parkway bond, which if everything's restored, it's refunded 100%.
Okay.
Can I just, Manager Francis, can you, because Trustee Marshowska brought this up, can you just very quickly, high level, say why we would do this for a business as opposed to for somebody's personal, their home improvement?
Right. So the reason why we would do this for a planned unit development versus a single-family home is the planned unit development is creating 22 new units, right? And so that's increasing the village's equalized assessed value. What does that mean? So that means the amount of property taxes that are going to be collected by the village increase, but also does a redistribution too, right? And so it could mean that actually some properties in Riverside pay a little less in property tax because of this redistribution that happens when you have a development. And so it's not only a beneficial for the development to go up because you're providing additional multifamily living space for residents that may be empty nesters but want to stay in the community, and that has been a lot of the feedback that we've received over the years. But in addition to that, there is inherent value beyond just the additional sales tax and property tax that's coming in.
I just think that's important.
It is
to
very
get out
important.
there if people are watching why
And
we would consider this.
I think, too, Jessica showed you the table of her very conservative estimate of the economic impacts to the village government. You can multiply that probably by 5 or 10 times when it comes to the benefit to the school districts. And on top of that, very few, if any, students coming into these new units. There could be some, but traditionally in multifamily, there are very few. And so it's a huge impact to the school districts. So
Yeah.
I think we have consensus on how to proceed. I do want to bring up one other item that Jessica kind of touched on, and it's really separate from this because this is all about getting the building built. But I would like the board to think about an incentive for any sales tax generating use on the first floor, and whether or not separately you might want to incentivize that. Right now, the developer has the option of either live-work unit or straight commercial on those first.
Is that something we should have EDC take a look at for us?
We could have EDC take a look at that for us too.
I would like
Sure,
to weigh in on
sure.
that, please, yes.
But, and if they come in with a non-sales tax generating use, there's no sales tax rebate. But if they come in with a restaurant or retail, we could consider, I'd like that to be on the table so Mr. Leone can tell potential tenants, that there's a possibility of an incentive from the village, and that may help him recruit commercial tenants. So, okay, thank you.
Yep.
We have consensus. Thank you, Mr. Leone. Let's see, find my notes here again. That concludes our meeting. We do have a need for an executive session this evening for discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes, to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired pursuant to Section 2C5, and to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or legal counsel. Could I have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.